This is the Dzogchen Someday Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For numerous decades, I spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that you won't have to. This is Luke Skywalker Friday evening. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi after we review PTSD and strolling meditation. Right, so I'm going to tap this button and this button. Welcome aboard. Let me know type your name in the chat window. Let me know who I'm talking with. So, by way of introduction, life is messy, and no one makes it to the grave without a scar or two. Some scars are physical, other scars are psychological. What if there were no psychological disorders, but merely psychological symptoms of physiological disorders? The physical model states that trauma affects our central nervous system. Good news is there are subtle things we can do with our body and our brain to help us to manage PTSD. Daniel, you are utterly welcome. Welcome aboard. Don't be shy. The moment you got a question, just type it. Many years ago, the psychologist, Dr. Tom Hartman, PhD, wrote the book Walking Your Blues Away, which is a delightful marriage of the Buddha's walking meditation with neuroscience. In the book, he explains how the main culprit in trauma is our hippocampus. The difference between an experience and a memory is where it is in the brain. Once an experience is processed by our hippocampus, it's thought of as occurring in the past. Albeit, some memories are more pleasant than others, but a memory is entirely different than an experience in the present moment. So there are times when an experience is not processed by a hippocampus. Where our hippocampus is behaving like a doorman behind the velvet rope with a guest list. And unless you're beautiful, unless you're famous, unless you tip him a C note, you ain't getting in. And so what happens is an experience, no matter how old it is still experienced as the present moment until the hippocampus processes it. One of the cool things is simply by strolling, we can sort of massage our hippocampus to help it process the experience at hand. Let's begin with where to stroll. If we are in great emotional turmoil, then crossing a street is probably not the wisest choice. When we are in great turmoil, I recommend strolling around the block, maybe once, maybe twice, maybe for 15 minutes, maybe for 30 minutes, maybe for an hour. Strolling is simple. It's asymmetric. When we step forward with our left foot, our left arm swings back. and vice versa. That asymmetry is remarkably useful. It provides an asymmetric stimulation for our hippocampus, which is kind of like a massage. For some reason, it makes it more pliable. Once again, to go back to our idea of the doormat, it's like slipping him a C-nut. One of the most efficient ways for us to turbocharge our strolling meditation is as follows. Number one, I use the term stroll instead of walk. For too many years, for too many centuries, minions of patriarchy have convinced people that they have to take teeny tiny mincing steps while lavishing their feet and their ankles and their hips with concentration. I assure you, doing that will not only exhaust your medial prefrontal cortex, but it will trigger your amygdala, the seat of anxiety and aggression, which will just make things worse. So instead of doing that, we're just going to stroll. And we're just going to notice whatever comes up, whether that which comes up is pleasurable, painful, interesting, boring, glorious, or grotesque. We're going to turbocharge it in the following manner. During each inhalation, we're going to silently and mentally recite the verb watch. During each exhalation, we're going to silently and mentally recite the verb rest. If you're doing it for a fixed amount of time, let's say for the first 15 minutes, you can play with this exercise. And for the second 15 minutes, you can play with this exercise. That's not mandatory. Some people find it helpful. So I mentioned that we don't want to concentrate on our feet. We're just walking around the block. And as we walk, we breathe. We're not concentrating on our breath either. We're not actively focusing on our breath. How then shall we regard our breath? The way a piano student regards a metronome. They hold it merely in passive peripheral awareness while they lavish their attention on the sheet music and the keyboard. The sheet music that we are experiencing would be our perceptions, emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. And now let's shift gears. In preparation for mindfulness and meditation of clarity and letting go, allow me to remind you that clarity and letting go can serve as a sort of carrier wave of liberation's peace. This practice is known by many names. Some call it Ati Yoga. Some call it Sutra Mahamudra. Some call it Dzogchen. Some call it Great Completion Stage. Some people call it Trek Cho. Forgive my pronunciation. Some people call it slicing through the duality of dread and desire. Let's just call it watching and resting in harmony with our breathing. As we passively notice air entering our nostrils, silently and mentally we can recite the verb watch. As we passively notice air exiting our nostrils, silently and mentally we can recite the verb rest. The moment you have a specific question about the philosophies or techniques that support meditation, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window, for I tend to check for questions about once every 13 minutes or so. By the way, if you feel unsafe practicing strolling meditation in your neighborhood, especially after dark, I recommend investing in a treadmill. The only thing you're in danger of on a treadmill is being judged by your cat. Historians have insisted that the Buddha was fond of sitting meditation and walking meditation, and that he alternated between those two all day long. For instance, when he'd wake up in the morning, he'd go pee-pee, he'd wash his face, he'd sit in meditation for a while, then he'd do walking meditation, carrying a begging bowl and gathering his brunch. Then he'd walk back, eat his brunch, wash the bowl, wash his face, and sit in meditation. A tale is told that one time the Buddha's son, Rahula, ordained and joined the group of monks. And he was so enthralled with the beauty of the forest that he tripped and fell. And the Buddha reminded him not to concentrate on the beauty, but to be mindful of it, to be mindful of everything in the environment, gently and spontaneously and thoroughly. Welcome aboard. The moment you have a specific question about meditation or philosophy, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window, where I tend to check for questions about once every 13 minutes. right, so let's check for questions. I'm going to tap button 8. Let's see. Are there any oh, here we go. First time here. Welcome aboard, Astrid. Uh, First time here. Looking forward to your teaching. Thank you for this. You are utterly, utterly welcome. So if you got here at 6:15, there's a high probability I already finished the lesson by then. However, don't be shy. Type your questions in great detail, and I'll be happy to answer them. Now let's get over to Danielle. All right. Let's see. Are there any breathing techniques you recommend when there is restlessness in the body? Excuse me. I got restlessness in the mouth. Something to do prior to the formal setting of mindfulness meditation. Thank you very much. Excellent. Excellent question. So there, as a fan of Led Zeppelin, I am familiar with Stairway to Heaven. And one of the lines is, there are two paths you can go on. Same thing in everything else. There's the path of patriarchy, the path of matriarchy, the path of being controlling, or the path of being laid back, the path of being like the Big Lebowski, or the path of being like the Dude, the path of being like grumpy Mace Windu, or the path of being like groovy Qui-Gon Jinn. On the path of grumpy Mace Windu, we're very, very controlling. We try to control our environment and our body and our brain and all things in between. On the path of groovy Qui-Gon Jinn, we're aware of what's going on, circumstantially, physically, interpersonally, mentally, but we're not trying to control it. Allow me to switch screens. Let's see. Let's hit button 4. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever peacefulness or antsiness we might have seen during our previous inhalation could feel as if it was melting into the simplicity of just physical experience. That doesn't mean they're the same, but what it means is they're neither good nor bad. They just are. So what I like to do before class is I recognize I have physical needs and I try to meet them before class. So before class, I will rest and maybe watch kitty cat videos, and I'll have a snack, have a tall glass of water, maybe a nice crunchy apple. So I'll do what I can to set myself up for success, but there's no healthy way to control all the variables. So remember, our job is not to chase one particular state. Our job is not to calm the mind. Our job is to notice what's going on as we breathe in, and relax as best we can as we breathe out, knowing that as we breathe in again, it could be more of the same or a whole different can of worms. And that's okay. The goal of the path is not to chase a particular state. The goal of the path is to simply master the path. Mastering the path does not mean controlling the path. Anybody who's ever lived with a kitty cat knows that You cannot control a kitty cat, but you can learn to coexist with the kitty cat and all their many moods. Sometimes a kitty cat is just a cuddle monster, and other times, if they could flick you off, they would. They want their space. And so rather than trying to manipulate or coerce the kitty cat to behave in a certain way, we recognize that it's a grab bag of kitty cat moods. Similarly, with our own mind and body and circumstance, it's always changing all the time, sometimes subtly, sometimes coarsely. We master the path by noticing and relaxing and surfing it. What folly it is to walk to the beach and try to command the ocean and try to command the waves to still. That's lame. Better it is to grab a surfboard and ride the waves. That's much more fun and far less pretentious. Similarly, I squandered years trying to control my body and brain. It took me a long time to realize or to learn that it's better to cooperate with them. Here are some simple tricks. If you're feeling antsy during class, see, it's a fine line. Here's one. If your eyes are wide open, it's easy to get antsy. If your eyes are relaxed, it's easy to be calmer. If your eyes are focused on the ceiling, it's easy to be antsy. If your eyes are pointed towards the floor, it's easy to be mellow. But there is a real temptation to give into our controlling tendencies. And so allow me to entice you with a fiction. What if our brain, what if our central nervous system already knows what to do? What if by simply noticing and relaxing in harmony with our breathing, we're able to better cooperate with the 3-pound supercomputer that dwells between our ears? Allow me to tell you what you already know. There are times when sitting in class is bliss. There are times when it is not bliss. There are times it is easy. There are times it is not easy. The times that it is easy does not mean you're awesome. The times it is difficult does not mean you're bad. It's just the grab bag that is life. Sometimes, my tantric partner is a great cook, and sometimes she'll make these delicious snacks. They're like, you take a measurable date, you cut it in half, you throw away the bit, and you put in some crunchy peanut butter and some chocolate, you put it in the freezer. Oh, it's delicious. But if I have too much, my intestines wake me up with some horrible nightmares. Deeply agitating nightmares. And so when I get up from those deeply agitating nightmares, sometimes sitting feels like an impossibility. So I'll get dressed and go for a walk. And that will not change the dreams. That will not erase the dreams. But it can help me to feel more resourceful. And then come home, sit on the couch, read until my eyes get tired, and then return to bed. I hope that helps. Allow me to check the time. It's 35, 45, 48. Okay, let's continue with our silent meditation. You are utterly welcome, my friend. Let's see. Let's switch gears to the mindfulness and meditation of bliss and letting go. It's just a one-word difference. We're replacing the word watch with the verb feel. As we passively notice our chest swelling with breath, silently and mentally we can recite the verb feel. As we passively notice our chest subtly sinking as gently we exhale, we can silently and mentally recite the verb rest. Oof. By the way, Daniel, if you're still there, sometimes our body is not ready to sit. Sometimes it needs to walk or go lie down or have a snack. The Rolling Stones sang a song, "You can't always get what you want." And sometimes our body's needs or our central nervous system's needs are incongruous with our desires or schedule. I recommend being gentle with your body and respectful of its needs. In the long term, it pays great dividends. Why, thank you, Daniel. And it's a delight to hang out with you. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. For Meditate Like a Jedi is made possible thanks to the generosity of viewers just like you. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.